Cali X Boxing here with D Style Boxing. We are live on this Monday morning with another episode of HCP Aftermath. I'm just getting in from Vegas just
He
a
just
couple
walked you
hours
through the
ago.
door. Like he just walked in.
Just a couple hours ago, D Style. Not much. I haven't gotten much sleep in about 4 days. It is what it is, but glad to be talking boxing. Caught up with the fights as I was traveling back in this morning. Just watched the CATTERALL fight, like literally. Finished watching it like 20, 30 minutes ago. So got a lot to talk about. How you feeling on this Monday morning?
Feels good actually. Needed a day off, so I'm glad to be here. Shout out to Mr. Boxing Guru, Mr. ISL Caps. Uh, got that boxing cap looking fresh. Hit him up on YouTube. You guys are interested in the cap.
That's right. Hit him up. And I got it too. Great quality. So great customer service. So
It is
hit him
pretty
up.
good.
Shout out Jesus M in the chat. He's saying Santillan versus Ennis. And we're going to get to that when we talk about that fight. Um, so make sure y'all are hitting that like button. Let's start off with CATTERALL versus LINARES before we get to Santillan versus Rocha. I figured out what I don't like about CATTERALL. I'm gonna get to that in a minute, but good win for CATTERALL. I wasn't a fan of the fight. Linares this is his fourth straight loss, and now he's going into retirement. So I want to talk about, how we feel about Linares' career, the ups and downs. If there was ever a career full of ups and downs, if ever there was a roller coaster career, it was that one. And I like that about fighters. He was a very vulnerable fighter, but super talented. So you got the great and the bad with him in his career all in one. What'd you think about the fight?
Uh, the fight was look. It was better than I thought it was going to be. I'll give it credit for that.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm not going to exactly
Linares
go.
brings that out of people, right? Because we
Yeah.
said that about the Devin Haney fight too, right? He made Devin Haney look a little bit more exciting than Devin Haney usually looks.
Yeah. And the thing with Catterall is that he did the hard part, which is like hurting Linares, buckling him, having him in position to finish him, but then he wouldn't
Yeah.
finish him. And I don't know. I don't know whether to be critical about that or not because I think finishing guys is a skill
Yeah.
that we got some serious finishers out there in the sport. Like Inoue is a hell of a finisher. Crawford, he's a finisher. There's guys that when they hurt you, you're out of there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Catterall, I'm not saying he has to be a finisher at that level, but if you heard it not as that many times, a guy that's been stopped multiple times, I think that's something he needs to work on. That's something Catterall finishing his opponents, or it's just something he needs to work on, in my
I think
opinion.
what I hear you saying is it's not that he's not stopping guys. Maybe it's the effort to stop guys. Maybe he's not there, right? Maybe he doesn't trust himself as a
He's
finisher to
trying to
go for it.
be a little too safe and thinking it's being way. It's good to be patient. Like I'm not saying that there's guys that do the opposite. They start smothering their work, getting too wild, and you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tim Zoo gets excited when he hurts a guy and he starts attacking him. He's like a lion tagging his prey.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to necessarily just do that. You want to do it with caution, but still be aggressive. There's a balance. Like Triple G was really good at finding that balance and finishing his opponents, right?
Yeah.
Look, again, I'm not saying he has to be a finisher like Triple G. Those are very elite finishers. The same with Inoue. Like I don't want anybody to get me wrong. Like, damn, D-Style, you want him to be like Inoue? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, against an opponent like Linares, who's up there in age, 1 foot out the door, he announced his retirement after the fight in a losing streak. You did the hard part, as I mentioned. You hurt him. You had the guy ready to go multiple times, against the ropes. Maybe you should have stepped on the gas a little bit to go for that finish. And I believe he would have gotten it, but he just didn't want to take that extra step. He just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And it just is what it is. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah. And yes, I did survive Vegas. I survived. I like my sleep, man. And those who know me know I like my sleep, and I didn't get much of it. And hopefully I catch up with that tonight. But I figured out these style in watching CATTERALL. Like I said, I'm just fresh off of watching the fight. Got done watching about 20 minutes ago. And I figured it out. There's a disconnect between his lower body and his upper body. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. And it's the reason that he clinches so much. Because how many times have I said, man, he clinches way too much? What do you and I like? We like trades, right? We like trades. And you're not going to get trades naturally when guys clinch and they stop the action and it's a reset and it's a reset and it's a reset. And that's what you get with Catterall fights. You get a lot of resets. You get a lot of posing and then resets. But
Yeah.
his lower body, he's flat-footed. He's a flat-footed fighter. But this is the frustrating part about it is he's actually athletic. And how do I know that? Because his reflexes and his upper body movement is good, and he's got good reflexes, and he actually has above average hand speed. I would come close to say he's got pretty fast hand speed too. Not the fastest in the world, but fast enough. He does a good job, southpaw, of pawing that right hand out there, and then when he gets his opposition in position, he's going to throw that left hand. He throws it quick. But the disconnect is when and you saw it early in the fight, Linares is countering him, right? And that's what Linares does specifically early in the fight. Great boxer, technical fighter, timing, and he's timing Catterall. So what does Catterall do? As a result, Catterall holds. And why does Catterall hold? Because he doesn't trust his feet to get in and out of there. He's not moving his feet, so he's just going to hold to stop the action. And that's the frustrating part about Catterall to me because athletic fighter, good hand speed, good reflexes, he can make you pay, good timing, but he doesn't trust his feet and he's flat-footed and he gets stuck in position and instead of getting into trades, phone booth type of stuff, he's just going to clinch. And that's the frustrating part about Catterall to me to where, man, I'm watching him fight and I'm like, it's an athletic fighter. He's a good fighter. This is a legit top 5 to 6, 7 fighter in the weight class. Maybe even higher, right? If he was active because I thought he beat Josh Taylor. And, a bad fighter doesn't beat Josh Taylor. He's a good fighter. But then there's that entertainment value you have to look forward to watching a guy fight. And I think that's the reason we don't have it is he doesn't trust his feet and he gets locked in position and he doesn't trust himself to trade. Maybe it's what you're saying. Maybe he doesn't trust his power. Maybe that's it. But it's a frustrating style to watch because it's not only frustrating to watch a guy who clinches, but it's frustrating to watch a guy who has the potential to be a fun fighter, just not be that guy because he doesn't trust his trades. Would you agree with that
Yeah, I agree with
analysis?
that. And look, uh, pugilism says should Canelo have finished Mal the way he was, not sitting on the stool the whole fight in between rounds. I won't criticize him and understand his position of control, but yeah, but I just think there's some clear differences here. One, Mal was not a fighter that was knocked out multiple times. He was not on a losing streak.
Yeah.
While he was heading into a fight, he wasn't just knocked out cold multiple times going into a Canelo fight. This is a guy who had one loss on his record. He avenged that loss. He just finished knocking out Castano, took bombs from Castano and never went down, never got knocked out by him or nothing like that. And Canelo, I felt like he was, he did knock down Mal, and I do believe Mal went into survival mode, where
Yeah.
I do think Linares was bringing out a little more out of Catterall. Like he was bringing it a little more, and so I just think there's some differences there. But I will say this: it gives me the opportunity to say the following. I've never said that Canelo's the best finisher out there. Like there are fights that Canelo I feel could have finished earlier, but he finished later, and there's fights where he just couldn't finish guys. So that's why I made sure I said I'm not saying I want Catterall to be in a way or somebody at that level of a finisher.
Yeah.
I just need him to at least, I would think anyway, at least finish Linares. You know what I mean? Especially after hurting him a couple times. But he didn't. But it doesn't mean I think he's a terrible fighter or anything. I just think that's something he needs to work on, being a finisher.
Yeah, you're right. So Linares in his career, that's something we need to analyze now because he's saying he's retiring from boxing, and I think that's a good thing, right? It's sad to see a guy who I think it's fair to say a decade plus ago we said that's a possible pound for pound guy, right? Like 12, 13, like that's a possible pound for pound guy right there. Great technical fighter, great timing, counter puncher, all of it seemed to be there. Good power. a guy who sparred with Manny Pacquiao and those. I read Steve Kim's article. He texted me to me earlier about Linares, and early on he would go to Wild Card Gym. Steve would go to Wild Card Gym and watch Linares fight, spar Pacquiao, and say, "Man, this everybody was raving about this guy. This guy is going to be a serious talent." And then he had those highs, right? But then he had those lows. He's one of those guys, like, it's weird. You'll see it in a fight, like in a single fight. You'll see, like, round 5. Oh my God, this guy's talent is off the charts. He's one of the best fighters in the world. And then round 7, you'll say, this dude's making mistakes all over the place. What the hell is going on? You
Yeah.
would see it in a fight, and that's what would make Linares must watch, right? Because you would see those, just a roller coaster of a
I
ride
mean,
when it
look,
came to
he
this guy. He
was
won legit titles in 3 weight classes. Like that's he did that. And then he
the,
lost fights that you're like, how in the hell did he
yeah.
lose
Look,
that fight?
I was very very big on Linares for a while since I started YouTube, right? And I was saying things like, "This guy is the future pound for pound king," and that this guy's
Mhm.
like that's what I saw.
And you weren't alone.
But he was an example of this is an example of why we need fighters to face resistance. Why we need to wait.
Yeah.
Why we don't just put guys on a pound for pound list until they actually prove, right? Until they go through the iron, basically, to prove that the eye test is not misleading us. Because and the eye test wasn't misleading us. It's just that there's things that the eye test doesn't tell you,
Yeah.
right? How does he? What's going to happen when somebody hits him? A puncher hits him right square in the chin. Well, we found out what happens. He gets knocked out, right? What happens when a guy takes him to deep waters and he starts to slow down? How good is his engine, right? We found out in the DeMarco fight. DeMarco didn't beat him because he's a more talented fighter. DeMarco beat him, right? Because he had a better engine. He was more durable, right? He was like, okay, I'm going to take you to deep waters and see if you could swim out here.
Mm-hmm.
And Donatus couldn't swim that deep in the waters. You know what I
No.
mean? And credit to Donatus, he actually showed improvement after that fight and made a little bit of a comeback. He gave Lomachenko a great fight, but he got stopped in that fight.
Yeah.
People expected Haney to just wash him. Well, he hurt Haney pretty clearly late in that fight, and Haney was holding on for dear life in the last few rounds against Linares, which is to this day, I still look at that fight and I say to myself, can't wait till somebody clips something like that again and see what happens. But look, I still think he had a great career, 3 division champion,
Yeah.
one of the few great champions out of Venezuela. Nothing to be ashamed of. You know what I mean? And he could hold his head up high, man. He had a great career.
21-year career.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
been around.
Yeah, and
And
I don't want to make it seem, by the way, Kelly, like just because we're saying he didn't live up to what we thought, that he didn't have a good career. Right.
right.
It's just that's how.
Expectations get to a
Yeah.
certain point off of what the eye test tells you. And
Yeah.
then when you go beneath that, people are naturally going to say, man, he's going to be one of those guys that people say, and you have these in every sport. Man, what could that
Like,
guy have been? But at the end of the day, he is who he is. And that's who he is. And there's still value in that, right? Because I like those roller coaster rides in boxing. I'm naturally attracted as a boxing fan to vulnerable fighters. And he was that. Boy, was he that. And going into whatever fight, you look at the betting odds and you say, when it comes to Linares, throw it out the window. Because he might be in a fight where he's a 4 to 5 to 1 underdog, and you're like, he's live. And then there's going to be a fight where he's a 12 to 1 favorite, and you're like, he can lose that fight. And some of them he did. Some of them he did. But 4 straight losses, lost 6 out of his last 9. He's losing to fighters at this point in his career. And that I'm not necessarily talking about CATTERALL and Haney, because those are really good fighters. But you don't want to see it go on. 21-year vet, that is a long time in boxing. 2 decades, that is a long time. Saturday night I was in Vegas at the MGM Grand. I went and saw David Copperfield. And
still alive. Yeah.
he's still alive and he's still doing math. He's still making 60 million a year. It's insane.
Wow.
Got a residency at MGM Grand. But I'm watching him in this small theater, D style. And I'm used to the guy that made the Statue of Liberty disappear. And my wife went and saw him like 15 years ago. She said he was great and he wasn't the same. I'm sitting there watching him and it's kind of sad. It's like this dude just isn't what he was. It's a shell of himself. This like street magic, like that you would see a street performer do. But that's the part that becomes awkward, especially in boxing. When you see a guy hang around too much, it's like I heard Bill Cosby do an interview about watching Joe Lewis's last fight. And he's like, man, it was so sad watching him walk to the ring. I hate to see fighters get to that point to where it's awkward for everybody. It's just sad to watch. And Linares has done his job as gatekeeper, but I think that job's over. We don't need to see it anymore. I think this is a correct time to step away. Would you agree?
Oh, it's time. He agrees. He announced his retirement. He said this is the
Mm-hmm.
way to go, and he said he promised his family if he doesn't win this one, that's it. So, and he said well, it's a good way to go out with the decision. He said so.
Yeah,
Better than getting knocked out, I guess. But
true.
still, good career. I do wonder if he'll do a fight in Venezuela or not. I don't know.
Yeah.
If he gets a gimme over there, I'll be okay with that. But as far as being done at this world class level, that's it. Look, he's still good enough to beat club fighters and guys like that. But he's gonna lose to them eventually if he keeps doing it.
Yep.
So
You're
it's
right.
just time to just let it go. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like it's time to call it a career. Maybe I think he should have called it after the Loma fight, but he kept going, and then maybe after the Haney fight would have been a good time to go, but he kept going, and his record now shows too many losses, in my opinion, because he just stayed around for long.
Yep. Absolutely right. Um, we're gonna move into Santillan versus Rocha right now. Y'all make sure y'all are hitting that like button in the chat. Make sure to hit that like button for us. This was the fight of the weekend, and we thought it would be the fight of the weekend coming in. Card of the weekend and performance of the weekend and shock of the weekend. Even guys who I heard coming in who are high on Santillan, even a guy like a friend of ours, Hot Boxing Minute, who is from the same gym, I believe, in San Diego, high on him, didn't see this performance coming. I saw people saying he can win this fight. He can pull off this upset as a 7-1 underdog, but I didn't see anybody predicting this type of performance. Santillan's not a guy who looked like an overwhelming pressure fighter who was going to come in there and stop Rocha. That's not what anybody was saying coming in, and this is why we fight the fights, right? How many times have we preached this? Get the fights off of paper, put them into reality, and you're going to get some shocking things. And that's what we got on Saturday night. What did you think about this performance right here?
Unexpected. Look, Santiago looked like a tank in there.
Oh my God.
Bro, I was thinking about like I still remember when Santillan, speaking. I know we mentioned him earlier, right? DeMarco. I still remember when Life and Death and arguably lost to DeMarco
Yeah.
at welterweight. Like DeMarco, not a welterweight. You know what I mean? So that's the Santillan I remember. A good fighter on top rank undercards. That's gonna give guys a good test. And I remember joking that that's the guy they're going to put in there with Crawford, but they went the Mean Machine route instead. Um, but now I'm looking at him and I'm like, okay, where's this Santillan been this whole time? He looked strong. He looked the speed looked decent. He looked powerful. The way he was putting those hooks, Roy Jones style, together was kind of impressive. Um, and he always had a chin. That's one thing he always had. So he carried that with him still. The Rocha wasn't able to put a dent on him. It just wasn't. And Rocha is used to being a guy that leads, a guy that's backing up his opponent. Conventional wisdom with a guy like Rocha is you box him the way Alice boxed him and beat
Yeah.
him that way. Santillan did the opposite. He went straight at Rocha. He ran through him. Right. This is like a Jeep running into a tank, bro. That's what this was.
It was outgunned, right?
Oh,
And
it
this is the type of
was.
fights
Yeah.
we live for as boxing fans too, right? Because two guys stylistically they look a lot alike, southpaw, similar build, but they keep their hands free, and then
Yep.
it's just going to be whoever has the bigger gun, right? And
I
that's
think Rocha
Santillan
might have
did.
been like he might have been a little too confident in, if we're getting exchanges, I can hurt him.
Mm-hmm.
But I never hurt him.
No.
Didn't even come close. Um, I knew this. I know it's going to sound dramatic, but by like round 3, I kind of knew Santillan was going to win. Like I was like, Rocha can't do anything to him, and every time he hits Rocha, he's hurting him, like visibly hurting him. And you could tell, like they're going back to the corner, and Santillan's getting warned about hitting low. I think that was a little excessive, but still, he keeps his composure. And I think Robert Garcia's credit was giving him very good instructions, telling him to like be careful, but keep going to the body. You know what I mean? But just be careful with the shots because the refs against us. He said, I'm not saying I agree with that, but that's the mentality instilled in Santillan. Like we're here to take this. Like you know what I mean? They're all against us. You know, so that's how he motivated them. He would go back out there, bro. Just be like a Terminator. Just body head. Rocha couldn't figure out like when Santillan would land like a hook, right? Let's say the right hook landed. He didn't even know if the left was coming after that because Santillan would double up, triple up the hook. Sometimes he wouldn't and come back with the straight. And I think that was confusing Rocha.
And when he started to incorporate the uppercuts, he did not see the uppercuts coming.
He didn't see it coming, and he kind of waited till Rocha crouched down a little bit to start using them. And that's not this. Rocha was landing some shots.
Yeah, he was.
But really Rocha hit him with a nice hook in the final round that I thought, did Santillan feel that? Santillan. I think Santillan got more confident after that. He was like, oh, well, that's the best you got. And he just went at, bro. And look, credit to Rocha. He was going to keep getting up. So thankfully the ref stopped it. Calix, I thought it should have been stopped after the 5th. I don't think he should have gone back out. He was out on his feet in the second knockdown.
Yeah.
He was out.
That was brutal. It was brutal.
And refs I get that I get it's probably a very awkward spot for the ref to be in. Like if I stop the fight, I'm the bad guy. I ruined this great fight. Or the fight's going to say I screwed him over. But you can't think about those outside. You got to think about the moment. Is he ready to continue? Yes or no? Mm-hmm. He wasn't ready to continue, bro. He was out on his feet.
No, and the life came out of him on that last knockout. I mean, that was beautiful. That was a beautiful last combination, final combination. And we talk about a guy, we learn more about Santillan now, right? And this once again, I mean, how many times do we have to say it? This is why you fight the fights, because it's the theater of unexpected when you simply put on the fights and put on a good card.
Look, I didn't see it coming, and this is where people have forgotten to be fans, right? And maybe I'm guilty of it here and there, right? Whatever, however you want to put it, okay? We have to understand this, okay? As a fan, I want great fights. Mm-hmm. Even if a fight doesn't go the way I expected it to go, right? Let's just say a fight didn't go the way I expected it to go, hypothetically, right? If it's a great fight and it's a great performance, I'm all for it. And you know what? Moving forward, I'm still a fan of Rocha. I'm still a fan of. I'm still going to watch him fight. I still want to see his fights because the guy's a warrior. He brings it, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Yep. Okay. So that is that. Also, Showtime James was on the opening bout as far as the televised one goes. He stopped his opponent in the first round. I thought the opponent was out on his feet. That's another fight, and the ref let it continue. It just went a little too long. You can't have fights like, again. I do wonder if it's running through their head, Calix, like, I don't want to be the bad guy that stopped the fight, when that shouldn't be in their heads.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Or I really want to give this guy a shot to recover. Like that shouldn't be in your that should not be in your mind as a referee. So it's 2 fights where I believe that happened that night, in my opinion. So for what it's worth.
Yeah. So 2 things with Santillan that probably groomed him for this fight here and fighting up to the level of competition is Thompson Boxing alum, and on top of that, top ranked fighter, right?
Mm.
So top ranked fighters have proven that they do well in these cross promotional fights when it's um, same level fighter, right? They just seem to be groomed for the moment. Um, and when it came to this fight, it just simply became a battle of who has the bigger guns. Because when you have a fight like that, two guys, similar build, similar style, high guard, southpaw, and throwing off of each other's shots and keeping their hands free. You saw as the fight went on, and I think that's why you said third round you probably felt a certain way about where this fight was
Yeah.
going. It simply became, you saw as early as that one guy was handling the shots better than the other one, right? And you saw that Santillan was going to be able to walk through those shots, and it was going to become a battle of attrition, and Rocha was going to keep taking these shots, and eventually that chin was going to wear a little bit, right?
Yeah. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, that you kind of saw like for what this always happens. There's always guys that certain guys just can't beat.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like if they fight again, bro, I'm picking Santiago all day.
Yeah.
Because I already know Rocha can't hurt him. I already know. I know that for a fact, right? Um, but that is that. Read that. I have some thoughts about that.
My guy Drew at the only Sanch over there on Twitter or X. I need Gio versus Boots to prove who's the best at 147, and I'm not changing my Twitter name. Other serious sports. When something like Gio winning happens, there is buzz to see him do it again against the best, but not in boxing. Go, because I have my thoughts on that too. Drew, appreciate the super chat, but go ahead with what you got to say.
Well, look, if Crawford really is moving up, right, and he's going to move on, and he wants to fight Canelo, and he might fight Tim Tszyu, maybe early next year. I don't know. We'll see. But I do like Santillan versus. But look, if Boots did this to Rocha, right?
Yeah.
We would have Boots. He's the best I've ever seen, and he could knock out Thomas Hearns, bro. I am formally requesting that Drew change that name on Twitter. All right. That Boots can knock out Thomas Hearns. I don't care if he's joking. I don't care if it's a parody. I don't care. He needs to change that name. I'm just putting that out there. That's blasphemy, bro. If Thomas Hearns will blast Boots out of his boots. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like he'll start off the fight as Boots Sanders and he'll end the fight as just Boots. We'll only see the fucking boots on the fucking canvas. Get knocked out of that ring. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and by the way, I think
I like this fight
Santillan,
though. I do like Giovanni versus Boots. I love that fight. Let's do it.
I think so too. And by the way, I think Santillan has now been in the same amount of main events as Boots. By the way, do you know over the weekend it was sort of a quiet thing that just happened, but Cody Crowley announced his retirement just randomly. And he seemed frustrated. And I see a lot of fighters just seem frustrated with not getting dates, not getting fights. And it sort of segues me into some other things I wanted to talk about, piggybacking off this comment and piggybacking off of what I saw over the weekend. When a Santillan wins a fight like this, you got to keep him active. You got to get him right back. And outside sales, like if anybody's ever been an outside salesman, the first thing you need to do is you need to train your consumer, your customer into, I'm going to be here at this time every week. Same time, same place every week. When a Santillan wins a fight, you got to get the consumer, you got to strike when the iron's hot. You got to get the consumer
100%.
used to this guy being there quarterly, especially a Santillan. How many times have we said, and this was the beautiful thing about this Saturday night card. And this is the beautiful thing about when Oscar locks in. When Oscar locks in, I'm telling you, it's a beautiful thing because he puts on good action cards.
Yeah.
We missed the HBO Boxing After Dark type of cards that produced Arturo Gattis. And it's a shame that we can produce great fighters, but we can't produce those action stars. It's the market now. And it's a shame that Arturo Gatti, we haven't been able to, in almost 2 decades now, produce another Arturo Gatti because they're out there. They're out there, D style. And particularly when it comes to Mexican American fighters who like to entertain and keep their hands free, it's out there. So when I see Santillan versus Rocha on Saturday night, what I see is it's at the Forum, it's where it belongs. It's a good card from top to bottom. It's an action card.
Yeah, yeah.
And when Oscar locks in, nobody understands that LA, Southern California market like Oscar does. Nobody understands that market like he does. And that's what I want to see him do. I want to see Eddie do it. Eddie's too broad in thinking. He's too stretched thin. I want to see guys, I want to see Oscar lock in and focus on that Southern California Mexican American audience. I want to see him lock in on certain weight classes and say, I'm just going to put on the best
But
card.
this is why they got to work together, bro.
It is. This was beautiful. It was a beautiful, like, just, dude, it was just a beautiful boxing card. And it was where it belonged. It was two fighters fighting each other when they're supposed to fight each other. And now you capitalize off of that, right? This is what we should do as boxing fans. We should say, all right, I want to see Santillan, put him back in the Forum. Or Oscar should be taking over the place that Al Heyman killed. And that's the Carson, California spot. I don't know what they're calling it these days, the old tennis courts. He needs to take over that spot, and he needs to put Rocha back there. And if you're Bob, you put Santillan back out there. Santillan, do not put Santillan on an undercard. Put him in a main event on ESPN Plus and put him in LA. That's what you do. You put him in Southern California.
Yeah, look, let me just.
And with Rocha, I want to piggyback before you keep your thought. But with Rocha, I want to echo what you said.
Okay.
Don't throw the guy away after a loss. Because that's a key ingredient when it comes to action stars is it doesn't matter how many times they lose. How many times do we see Arturo Gatti just get beat up in the ring? And then you bring him back. Just bring him back a couple months later.
Bring it back with the right opponent, 100%.
Yeah.
Just to address this really quick for Drew. Shout out to Drew. We appreciate the support, brother. He says, LOL, that name is to prove how much hype Boots has that's unwarranted. He's a new mythical undefeated boogeyman.
Yep.
Of boogeyman man. Like, damn, two mans. You know,
and I'm a little higher on Boots than you probably, but I gotta agree with you. I gotta agree with you. I gotta see it. I agree.
I know that it's a parody name, but I still don't like it, you know. But but look, it was a good card. Okay, now granted, I have to go back and watch I had to go back and I had to watch two of the fights because the zone fucked up. But it is what it is. I'm not complaining. I made it work. I watched the first fight that came on, right, which ended in the first round. So I didn't miss any of it. And then I missed the Fondura girl, Gabriela. Gabriela won the IBF. I think it's super flyweight or flyweight, one of the other belts. Well, shout out to her. Okay, and she's going to be a problem, I think. It's like Fondura, but she boxes more, right? And then, I only saw that one in the main event after that. But it was all put together very, 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 very well. All right. So shout out to Golden Boy that they did their thing. Look, and by the way, it makes sense to put Gabriella out there. And I hope they build on that. I hope they build on that. Okay, that's what I'm hoping. Will they? I don't know. I don't know if they're going to build upon that. I don't know what's going to happen, but something you touched on, and we've been touching on this for a while. Eddie Hearn spreading himself too thin, right? And I've given this example before. Excuse those that have already heard it, but if you remember the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, when Will became the manager of Ashley, right? Because she was a singer, right? And then he started to set up her world tour, right? Or national tour, I mean. And he started the tour like, we're going to go to New York, and then we're going to go to LA, and then we're going to Miami, then we're going to Seattle. Then we're going, let's see, like the travel plans weren't very efficient, in other words, right? They weren't making sense. That's not how you do a tour, right? And So you had a like in Hearn's case, that's what he's doing. He's in Sheffield, then he's in LA, right? And then he goes back to Leeds, and then he's in New York. And then he's in Ireland, and then he's in Monte Carlo. And then from Monte Carlo, he's back in Texas. And from Texas, he goes like the dude's all over the place, bro.
Mm-hmm.
He's spreading himself way too thin. He's all over the damn place. And then he's not around to, what's he called again? Well, what's his role? A
Promoter.
what?
Promoter.
How are you promoting if you're showing up on Thursday with jet lag, right? To do the press conference the next day to weigh in, and then you have the fight on Saturday. When did you promote? When did that occur? When did it happen?
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Hearn needs to start working with smaller promoters, right? I don't mean that in a disparaging way at all, by the way. I'm just saying with regional promoters, right?
Who understand the market.
Who understand the market. Let them do the promoting in the event. You have the main event and the co-main. Let them do the rest, right? You could even have the main card of the zone and let them keep all the matches that are not on the card, but let them, because that's an opportunity for them to put their fighters on those cards. But you need someone that understands the market, like you said, right?
And another thing, D-Style, is him and Oscar could be working together to make a lot of fun
A lot of
fights.
money.
Particularly, I feel like both of them should pick a weight class range. You can put on cheaper fights between 108 and 126. But even if you want to go after fighters 126 to 135, 140, whatever it is, even 147, we saw the welterweight fight. But you can do that, and you can work off of each other and sign a bunch of fighters in the same weight classes and work off of each other and put on a bunch of good events at the zone, but they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it, and it's frustrating to watch. But when Oscar locks in particular, and he puts on some great cards in Southern California, particularly LA area, and I want to see him continue to do that and roll Rocha back out there. Put him back out there February, March, and against whoever, and keep him out there, because this is where we're lost as boxing fans now. As I see people say Rocha's exposed, and look, maybe if you thought Rocha's a great fighter, fair enough, but there's a market for fighters like that, and we shouldn't be disposing of these fighters after one loss, because that's another key ingredient we're missing when it comes to not producing Arturo Gattis. Is these guys are afraid to get in these fights now because they lose one fight and it's over. Look, dude, stylistic matchups happen, and guys get in there with other dudes. Maybe they have an off night. Maybe it's just a bad matchup for them. And then Roach is going to be thrown away after one of those. Roll him back out there. Put him in it. There are plenty of dudes you
Well,
can
they're not
match
going
him
to throw
up
him
with.
away, though. Let's just put that out there.
But I'm talking about the
fans.
fans specifically, okay?
Right,
And
I get what you
yes,
mean.
put him back out there. But Santillan in particular, Top Rank needs to take advantage of this, because, as Nando said in the chat earlier, they found a golden nugget here. And this is almost an expendable fighter. You didn't expect Santillan. Maybe Top Rank knew this was coming. Maybe. But more likely is they didn't expect this performance, and now they've got something. So now, strike while the iron's hot. Keep this guy coming. Everybody's looking for this dude again after watching that. Put him back in there. And that's the market I feel like we're really missing in American boxing. They have it overseas. They have cards like this all the time. This is the one we're really missing, is those HBO Boxing After Dark.
Bottom line, it was a good card. They deserve credit for the card. I think top to bottom, they did a great job, and I think we need more of this. But it needs to be consistent. You can't just give us this and then pretend that okay, we're good. No, like it keeps going. You never reach a point where you're good. You could just give us crap fights. No. It always good, and you don't stop giving it good, or the consumer stops coming around, right?
Yeah.
I talked to several people that were there. Shout out to like Cholo Trucker from Los Chingones. He was there covering the event himself. And he kind of said it to me or I saw him say to somebody that is, it was about 70% capacity, right? Which tells me that's good. Like, you know what I mean? And you could feel the energy in the audience in the fight as well. So we need more of this. We need consistency. If there's something the zone could do, It's this. Look, they need to find a way to bring back something that's equivalent, because there's a gaping hole missing right now, and that is like something equivalent to Tuesday night fights or Friday night fights.
Huge vacuum.
That's
Huge.
missing. So pick a day, right?
Thursday night. Do the
Yeah,
remember they were
Thursday
starting
night.
the Thursday night thing going. Get the Thursday
Yeah,
night thing going again.
to be honest with you, it doesn't matter what night. Just be smart about it. Don't do it on Monday night. You know what I mean? With Monday Night Football, pick a night where there's not that much going on, and consistently week after week, right? You know, give work with small time promoter. Like, you don't always. Not everything has to be Matchroom. Not everything has to be De La Hoya. Now, it could be a small little show in Arizona, whatever, right? And guess what? And you tell them, hey, if this event delivers, we'll give you another event on the zone, right? Guess what they're going to do? They're going to deliver for you. That's what they're going to do. You have that event not for Golden Boy, not for Matchroom. They could participate in it as well, by the way, right? But you should be open. If there's a card ESPN doesn't want, you can get it from Top Rank. You couldn't, whatever it is, pick a day, pick a night, or all right, the zone, Thursday night fights, whatever it is, right? Let people know what it is. It could be the type of, for these type of cards at a consistent basis, right? And that'll be something really, the fans will like it. The hardcore boxing base will like something like that.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that. That is something missing in boxing, and we need those type of cards for startups, for guys making comebacks, for crossroad fights, for
Yes.
old veterans that aren't in their prime no more, but they're still kind of fighting the up and coming dudes. We need cards like that. We're missing that. Okay, like we I'm sure, Calix, there's a drunken master out there, a modern day one, but we don't know who the fuck he is because nobody sees him, right?
Exactly.
I'm sure there's a chop shop Corley out there that someone
Mickey
equivalent to
Ward.
him, and we
Where's the
don't know
Mickey
about him.
Ward? There are Mickey Wards out there. I'm telling you, they're out
Yeah,
there,
100%.
and we can't get them because we don't have a market for them to thrive. Number one, and then the boxing fans have been conditioned to just call those dudes bums after they lose. It's brutal.
It
It's a
is
brutal
brutal, bro.
environment that we have. And let me say this:
Amazing.
when you put on franchises like that, like you just talked about, when you put on HBO Boxing After Dark franchise, what did you have come out of that? You had franchise fighters come out of that
Yeah.
because that's how Arturo Gatti came to be, simply by putting on fights. And that's how a lot of these lower weight class fighters ended up making decent money. They didn't make great money, but they made decent money fighting consistently, and they
100%.
became boxing fans knew who they were, simply because I know on HBO Boxing After Dark, this is the level of
And it
fight I'm gonna
gives the
get.
opportunity, Calix, for an unknown guy, and like to, and ESPN Fight and Fights was notorious for this.
Mm-hmm.
We would always see guys we never seen before, and they're in the main event. But you know what people would say to themselves? Well, they're in this main event for a reason, so let me tune in,
Yeah.
right? And I don't care what anybody says, bro. I remember the numbers. Friday Night Fights used to do at a consistent basis, anywhere between 400,000 and 700,000 every week.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's almost the same as the top ranked numbers are right now on ESPN.
Yeah.
Like you could build something off of that, okay? And you know what would happen if you did something like that for hardcore? That they'll get off your back a little bit, okay? I'll stop complaining as much, okay? I'm just saying. But we need to have something for. They had a Friday Night Fights. Maybe that Joe Sean James could come back on that card and fight on that card and be on the main event, even, right? Or you could get Rocha in his comeback bout against some
Yep.
tough Mexican dude from Guadalajara or something, and we're like, is Rocha the same? And I don't know. It could be a fight of the year candidate, right? We have it, it's a tool that you can use, right? It could be used as kind of like in the major leagues. You know, like when a pitcher's coming back from a long layoff or a surgery. So the Yankees, or like let me use like El Paso. Like sometimes here the El Paso Chihuahuas will get like a major league pitcher from the Padres to play 1 or 2 games here to get them ready for the major leagues again, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we need something like that, so we're not getting these crap. Like, should we waste a Saturday night for a guy to have his tune up, or is it better to have a show, a weekly show, where we could use those shows instead for
Yeah.
the tune ups? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's all. That's all I'm really saying. Romain Vieira versus Rocha is a fight of your candidate to make that fight. I'm just gonna put that out there.
But
That's a great fight.
yeah, if you keep putting on cards like this, I'm telling you, magic is gonna end up happening because if you do it consistently. But the problem is, and we'll talk more about this because I want to talk about this reset um,
Sure.
in a minute. So I should save that. But Jesus, remember Jesus Soto Carras? You had fighters like that would just 7, 8 losses, and nobody cared. Everybody wanted to watch that guy fight. Everybody, because you knew he was a tough out for anybody. And then if you had a guy up and coming that wasn't that dude, Soto Carras was going to get the better of him. He was going to beat the hell out of him. And
You know what it is,
regardless, you
Calix?
could put this guy in any good stylistic matchup. Where are the Jesus
Yeah.
Soto Carrases out there? And why, as boxing fans, are we calling fighters like that bums, dude? Those are the fighters I want to see more of. I want to see more
Well,
fighters
look,
like that.
I
Give me
don't.
more Rocha. I don't care if Rocha
Here's the
lost.
thing. Like,
Give me more of it.
here's the thing, Alex. So I've always seen fans call fighters bums. I've always seen that. I just want to put that
Mm-hmm.
out there. Um, but I think like the bar, it's like weird. I think I know what you mean. Like in a weird way, like I feel like the quality of the fights we're getting has dropped, but somehow in a weird way, the bar of expectations has risen. Like for some reason, like
For
now you have to
certain
be
for
elite.
certain fighters. For certain fighters,
Now
yes.
you gotta be this elite dude to not be called a bum now all of a sudden. It's like, is that really like the only level there is? Like elite and then bum?
Yeah, no. Yeah.
What? Like, you know what I mean? Let me tell you something. Rocha is legitimately a top 10, top 12-ish welterweight on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good. Santillan was just better that night. And Santillan the top 10 welterweight on the planet.
Yep.
These are elite guys. They're not. Maybe they're not the cream of the crop, right? But this is world class boxing. These are really good fighters,
And
right?
people need to understand this too, is the bar has been so low with the welterweight division. It's been called this glamorous, great division, talent rich division. And fair enough, you want to call it talent rich division, that's fine. But you've had fighters there. How many times have I highlighted 7 of the top 10 fighters in the welterweight division? 70% were undefeated. That means guys are not fighting each other. So when
Right.
I have two guys in and around the top 10 fighting each other and they put on a fun fight, forgive me. Like, forgive me if I get excited about that. Forgive me if I forgive the dude that lost for fighting the fight. Forgive me if I get a little excited and say Santillan's a top 10 guy. I want to see him fight Boots. What else do I have to get excited about in that damn division? What else? I mean,
We
these
got
style.
Exhibit A right here.
Another thing is momentum is this ties into it. Santillan, they need to keep the momentum going, right? Get that guy back in there in February, March, in the same arena and make that guy the staple there, right? In the same area.
Hopefully they do. I don't know if they're
Build
do
off
that,
of that momentum. They do not build off of
They could
momentum
take
now.
him to San Diego though. You go to San Diego.
But look at the examples, D-Style, is people were getting excited about Cody Crowley. Then he doesn't get fights and he retires quietly over the weekend. He retired. Cody Crowley, a top 10 welterweight, retired. Just gone. Poof. No momentum, nothing going on. And then look at even Bud. And I got news and this is going to be an awkward conversation that I'm going to have with the Bud super fans because I've been a Bud fan for a decade. It's going to hurt me to do this. It's going to hurt me with some of my allies. But the Bud super fans out there are getting a little too excited about his market value out there. And my fear is Bud's going to get a little too excited about his market value and he's going to sit on the shelf for a little while. I hope that does not happen. It's just a fear that I have that it's just a fear that I have that we're 3 months into this now and I'm not hearing about a fight. We need to get something going. We need to get
look, I don't want to get too impatient in regards to Crawford. I mean, he fought in mid or late July, but
it's a trend that
look,
I'm hearing Teofimo over the weekend, D-Style said, I'm not going to fight at an MSG, even the big theater on Heisman weekend, because I'm too big for that now. I have to fight in the Sphere. And I'm saying the Sphere, dude, I saw this thing up close and personal over the weekend in Vegas.
Yeah.
That thing is impressive. They're not going to put just anybody in the Sphere. Tiafimo's not fighting in the Sphere unless he has Ryan Garcia on the other side of the ring from him. Okay, so if that's the plan, then good. But I'm telling you, these fighters are thwarting their momentum.
I understand that. Let me. There's a lot to unpack because you went through a lot. So let me just kind of.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, here's the thing. I'll be very brief. De La Hoya came out with the right message, by the way. Right now, how genuine he is, I don't know, because I agree with you. The guy's erratic. We don't know what he's going to say.
He does that, man. He does that.
Right, but nonetheless, the message is what I agree with. I don't know about the messenger, but the message is good, right? The message is us promoters. We got to get together. We got to make these fights happen. Right? Eddie Hearn came out. Now, Eddie Hearn says a lot of crazy things, but one thing he did say that I'm like, okay, yes, I like it. Right? Was we're letting go of some guys. We're letting go of some fighters. We're like
that's the right message.
We're trying to make great fights, and then they want easier fights for more money. Mm-hmm. Like I'm like, they win a fight. Okay, it's time to move on to the next level. And they not only do they not want to go to the next level, fight a tougher opponent, they want to fight easier opponents for more money. Right? Yeah. And he's talking about the managers and the PR people and their publicists or whatever. Or their advisors, I'm sorry, or their advisor and the manager are kind of like, and look, that's normal. The managers and the advisors are supposed to do that. But Eddie, you were supposed to act that way years ago. Like, there's supposed to be checks and balances in boxing, right? The promoter cannot act as an advisor and a manager. You cannot do that, right? You can't. The fighters might love it, especially if they're getting easy fights for a lot of money, right? But if the popularity of boxing is suffering and people are not watching boxing and all that because you have not been producing great fights at a consistent basis. I don't want to hear about the 2-3 big events we had a year. No, that's not enough, right? Like, I'm talking about in a consistent basis. So I'm glad Eddie's finally saying the quiet part out loud that guys that you and I have been saying for years, right? Like, you're not supposed to be working on behalf of the fighter in that way. You're a fucking promoter, bro, right? So if that means we're going to work with the guys that want to fight, right? Look, obviously they're going to hash it out behind the scenes and they're going to find ways to work it out. I get that, but there's supposed to be a tug of war, Alex, right? Mm-hmm. The managers, advisors, and the promoters, right? They're supposed to have a tug of war because the promoter is supposed to have a certain interest and they have a certain interest, right? And as a fan, I'm hoping that the interest of the promoter wins out, believe it or not, for the most part. But I understand that the fighters should look out for themselves as well. That's great, right? That hasn't been happening. Mm-hmm. And one thing, and this will definitely segue to the reset thing, right? With all due respect to Terrence Crawford, to Teofimo Lopez, okay? When they come out, well, you guys can't have these conversations if us fighters are not at the table. Crawford, you're one fighter. Worry about your fights. You're already gonna look out for your best interests. You're gonna negotiate. You're gonna sit down with your manager, your advisors, and your team. You're gonna figure out what's best for you. You're already doing that. What the hell are you gonna be at the table talking about all of boxing for? Are you gonna you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Teofimo comes out. Well, they have a $90 million budget, and I haven't seen any of it. Like, does Teofimo not understand that it's 365 days a year? There's 53 weekends a year, Alex. And Top Rank is putting on a fight almost every week. And if you divide that, it's only about 1.5 million, so something like that, per fight. Does he not understand that they're trying to pay all fighters? Not just the world does not revolve around you. Mm-hmm. It doesn't revolve around Teofimo Lopez and around Crawford. That's not how it works. Teofimo, you did under 1 million views. I'm just putting the numbers out there. Here's what it is: under 1 million views against Taylor. No, you're not entitled to half of the 90 million. I'm sorry. You sold 5,000 at the Garden Theater, and it did less than $1 million at the gate. I'm sorry, you're not entitled to a $20-30 million payday. You're not entitled to a third of all the budget for the whole year for all the fighters, because like you're just not entitled to that, bro. Like it's no, you don't belong, and you just don't. I'm sorry.
No.
The fighters do not belong at the table talking about the fights and what the plan is, right? Because at the end of the day, you're looking out for your best interests. You personally, as a fighter, the best interest for the promoters is, if they do it right anyway, they work together, hypothetically, right? Would be to put on the best events to attract as many people to the event. That's the way it is. Am I wrong in that? Am I saying that Crawford doesn't belong right there on the table?
No. So
When they're talking about his fight, yes, he should be at the table.
yes.
But if Oscar, and I'm sorry, just one more point. If Oscar and Eddie are working together, right, to make fights on the zone, hey, Crawford, what the fuck you doing here? What, you ain't even with us, bro. Get over there. You know, I'm just saying, well, why is Crawford going to be there? Like, yeah. Like, what's going on? Like, for what? But anyway.
Yeah. So this is the part that's painful as a content creator, because I might disturb some of my alliances by saying some of this stuff. And it's frustrating because, and I don't say this to pat myself on the back, but I was the first in the door at the YTBC pumping up Bud Crawford. So now everybody arrives there, and then he gets these super fan content creators, and then they just start saying outlandish stuff. And it's like, whoa, calm down. And then they might even call me a Bud Crawford hater for saying this, which is crazy. But I don't want to hear stuff like this from fighters who are overvalued as far as what they produce, as far as revenue, and what they think they are as far as a revenue generator. So Teofimo Lopez thinks he's entitled to the sphere and thinks he's entitled to super fights in 9 figures or whatever he thinks he's entitled to, sitting down at the table. And Bud Crawford, the same thing. And Eddie Hearn says something over the weekend saying we're going to have to cut fighters loose because we can't pay him this anymore. And Bob Arum said a similar thing about Bud Crawford. He's just not generating what we're giving him, so I got to cut him loose. And Bob's been the best at this. Bob has been the best at saying, look, man, I can't pay you that anymore. Go fight your big fight. Go over there for somebody who's going to overpay you and go fight your fight. Good for you. It's tough saying these things because, once again, I'll disturb some alliances, but it needs to be said because nobody's out there saying it. There's 2 problems with a great reset in boxing. 2 problems. I hope we see a great hard reset in boxing. And D-Style and I have been saying, I've heard Beeb saying it, saying we need a reset in boxing. We need a reset. And the harder the reset, the better. I think we're going to get a very soft reset. I hope D-Style and Beeb are right that we're going to get a great reset, a hard reset, and it's going to reset this whole thing, and we get something that's sustainable and good for boxing fans. But these are 2 problems I see, D-Style, when it comes to a great reset, and why I argue that we're not going to see a hard reset. Hope I'm wrong about this, but number 1 is you can't. There's a reason that we need a great reset, and it's because the people in power have been abusing the system for so long and have taken so much power away from the consumer, the boxing fan. And my only interest when we talk about a reset is my interest. I'm only worried about how this is going to affect me as a consumer, right? So the first problem we have is D-Style. I'm right here in South Louisiana, New Orleans. When Katrina hit, people don't know this, and I want to get too deep into this, but that was as much a man-made disaster as it was a natural disaster. And I'm not going to go into that, but there's a reason that happened the way it happened. But you're expecting the same people who caused that to happen to be in charge of the reset, and you're trusting them to reset the market.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Is 20 years later, New Orleans is worse than it's ever been. and people were getting optimistic that something good is going to happen of this. Something good is going to happen from 10 feet of water throughout the city, everything being destroyed. And it didn't. Same thing happened, and it's accelerated even worse. The same thing in boxing is I have to trust the Al Haymans, the Eddie Hearns, the Oscar De La Hoyas, the Bob Arabs, the same people who have created this artificial environment to reset the environment and give us what we want. That's why I argue against seeing a great reset. I don't think we can trust these people. And the other part of this is, and I'm talking more about philosophical things because I think it's important. We have a very entitled generation, D-Style, and we have ourselves to blame for that. We're the ones who raised these kids, and our parents did it to us. They started this. Once you give out so many entitlements, D-Style, it's impossible to reel that back in. It's impossible. It's there now. I see guys on the sports level now. I see college kids coming out of college and thinking because they get a general studies degree that they're entitled to a six-figure payday. It's just not going to happen. I see Caleb Williams, the quarterback for USC, say, I'm only going to a team that's going to draft me that is willing to give me equity in the franchise. And I was like, what the hell is this? Equity in the franchise? You have 0 passing yards in the NFL and you want ownership of a franchise? It's an entitlement that's there. And we've given fighters, power brokers have given fighters so much that I think it's going to be hard to reel that back in. I think we're going to see a lot of pain out there. I think we're going to see a lot of guys saying, I'm not fighting for that, and I'm just going to sit on the shelf. I think we're going to see a lot of Cody Crowleys just say, I'm not getting what I want. I'm just fine. Disappear. I'm going to be gone.
Look.
And look, but I think this is important is I care about how it affects me as a boxing fan. I think we're going to see a lot of inactivity continue, and we're going to see a lot of pay-per-views continue because I'm not so sure of what everybody's been preaching to me for years now is the fighters want to fight, but it's the system that's doing it to them. When I see Frank Martins turn down his money, when I see guys thwarting momentum after big wins, I'm not so sure fighters want to fight now. I'm not so sure.
Check it out. So I hear what you're saying. And look, and it goes back to the analogy that I used last week, right? Like boxing fans, we're like the battered wife and we're in this abusive relationship, right? With the power brokers, as you say, right? Those in charge, the promoters, the networks, the advisors, managers, etc. The people in power that have built what we have at the moment, right? Look, and it's kind of like, what does the abuser always say, right? When the battered wife's ready to leave. Oh, I'm not gonna do it again. I'm gonna fix my ways. I promise. Oh, I'm gonna go get help. I'm gonna go to Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. Let us go to counseling. I'll talk to a counselor. Da, 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 right? And it's always something new. It always sounds good. We're kind of in that phase right now, right? Yep. The abuser suffered the consequences of something, right? And the battered wife is ready to leave, and now they're promising us a world. Like, no, we learned our ways. We're gonna fix this now, right? But sometimes, Calix, I have an aunt who my uncle used to abuse her all the time. Okay, she would leave. They're off and on. He hasn't been that way in over 20 years. He changed, right? Like at some point, he had to put the bottle down to change, but it changed, right? And he hasn't abused her since then. Until this day, he talks about how much of a piece of shit he was, but he changed his ways, and he's a better person now. So it's not impossible, right, for something to happen, but usually happens when the battered wife has had enough, and people, a support system is there for that battered wife, right? Whether it's the brother found out that you're hitting my sister, or what's going on with this, or whether it's the cops have all of a sudden that now the cops are getting involved and you might go to prison. Like there's always something that happens. And in this case, I do believe that a support system for us, the battered wives, has come to the rescue. Like I do. Showtime has fallen, right? Showtime has fallen. They should make a documentary about that because it's fallen.
Mm-hmm.
PBC is wandering the wilderness looking for a home, like the Hebrew Israelites were at one time, right? They're just wandering right now, the desert, looking for somebody to take them, right? I think a lot of people see the writing on the wall. And the writing on the wall comes with a lot of irony. Teofimo Lopez and Crawford don't even realize that some of the things they're talking about are part of the problem. That's the irony of it. Teofimo Lopez wanted to get paid an inflated purse is actually part of the problem. That's not the fix. That's part of the problem, Tio. That's not a fix at all, actually.
Not for us. They might feel it is for
Yeah,
them,
yeah,
but
for you in your life, sure. Of course, for Teofimo fanboy, and you love Teofimo and only Teofimo, you don't care about boxing. Yeah, it sounds great for you, right? But here's the problem, Calix. This is why inflated purses, as we've been talking, at least over 3 years now, we've been talking about inflated purses in boxing and how they're a problem, right? And here's why. This is a classic example why. Let's be honest. Teofimo Lopez is looking over there what Devin Haney's making.
mm-hmm.
He's looking over there. He's seeing what Crawford was making, what Shakur is making. And he's saying to himself, yo, I fought Comey, Loma back to back. Yeah, I lost to Camboza, but I come back. You had me fight Martin. And then I had to fight freaking the lineal champion at 140 and Josh Taylor. And I'm not making what they're making. Why not? Why am I not making that? Right? Here's the thing. Devin Haney is the master at getting inflated purses.
Yeah.
He's been getting inflated purses, Devin Haney. This is the truth. Devin Haney could like this event selling as far as seats go, but before that, he couldn't sell anything. Right? And his purse is so inflated that the zone had to put him on pay-per-view to pay him. That's how inflated his purse is, right? So it's not an accurate description. However, yeah, Teofimo looks at that. And yes, it gets in his ego when Haney throws it in his face on Twitter. I'm making more money than you bum. You're only making that much? Look at what I made. And we have fighters now bragging about what they're making and throwing it in other fighters' faces. Egos get involved. And this is exactly what Oscar De La Hoya was talking about. When Oscar says, yeah, like, can't have the fighters at the table. Like when I was a fighter, I could because I have an ego, right? As a fighter. So at the end of the day, inflated purses caused a lot of this. And now it's having other fighters say, yeah, there's all these problems with boxing. I should be getting paid more. What? Like what are you talking about? Like we have way too many inflated purses, now not too little of them. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, I'm looking. Teofimo Lopez, in my opinion, has one of the best resumes in boxing. And is it?
I'm doing a pound for pound list right now, D-Star. I think I have him 5.
Yeah,
5.
like him and Loma took a pay cut pretty much to fight in front of no crowd. And gave us one of the best fights, 2 years ago, right?
Yep.
Or 3 years, I think it's
3
been,
years
or whatever
ago.
it's been. And maybe he feels the sport didn't reward me for that, right? I get
Probably.
it. To a certain degree, I get it. I do.
Yeah.
But it's because of everything else. Like when boxing does things that are unfair and guys get overpaid and guys that don't deserve it get opportunities they shouldn't get, like Raleigh, like getting the title. Like when things like that happen, it starts to create an imbalance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it starts to, it has an overall effect on morale for the fighters, right? Fighters that are all working hard, like Crowley, probably says to himself, "Oh, what the fuck, bro? Like, what do I got to do to get my opportunity?" Right? it creates this trust amongst the fighters towards the promoters and everything. And I just think like that. In order, now that's always going to be there, right? But in order to fix that, well, we need this. Like, I hope Eddie's being honest and truthful, and they're going to just stop giving away purses just to give them away,
But
right?
you know who's doing the perfect job of cutting through that and saying, because dude, this is the microcosm of just life. How many times have you worked for a place and you say, this guy doesn't deserve that position, he doesn't deserve what he's making? You find out what people make and you're like, I deserve more than what he's making. But
Yeah,
what
you
is
could be
the
happy. You could be totally happy, right, with what you're making, and then you find out that this chump
yes,
over here is making more than me, and
but
he's always asking me for help, and he's making more than me. Yeah,
the only productive way of dealing with that D style is you have to lock in. And it's not just a trendy prayer. It's you have to focus on what you can control. And
Mhm.
the guy doing a perfect job and his team of doing it is doing a perfect job right now is Tim Zoo. And it's like, dude, we're not just fanboys here. We're saying like we're just boxing fans and we're observing this. And you can see it from a mile away. You can see what's brewing here is they're just saying, look, y'all can do whatever y'all want to do. We're going to focus on what we can control here. We can't focus on what Mel's going to do. We can't focus if Bud's going to come up to 154, if he's going to skip over the division, move up to 168, whatever they're talking about. We're going to focus on what we can control. We're going to focus on whatever the pay is per fight. We're focused on long term.
Yeah.
And there is an epidemic of dudes. It's from the power brokers down, networks, power brokers, all the way down, and it trickles all the way down to fighters. It's all short term thinking now. It's all short term thinking. It's instead of focusing on, I'm going to fight the fights, and eventually people are going to catch up. Eventually, the market value is going to show me what I'm worth.
True.
And on top of that, if I fight the fights, look, you're drinking a Coke up there. Maybe I get a Coke endorsement. Maybe I get Bud Light. I'll build on the Bud Light endorsement. I'll build on these endorsements, whatever it is you're drinking up there, Coke Zero. I'm gonna get passive income off of all the hard work I'm doing on the front end. And eventually the market seems to catch up if you're really worth that and you put in the work.
So I need to
And
address something really quick.
yeah, go ahead.
Um, so MEZBX says D-Star really hates that Haney makes good purses. That Haney tried to take your girl or something. Here's the thing. Let me ask you a question, brother. What does Haney get an inflated purse do for you as a boxing fan? Is what I want. That's the first thing I want to know. And maybe you care or don't care, right? But also, you want to disprove my point that he was getting inflated purses, or you just want to make statements like that? Prove me, he didn't make inflated purses. This is why. Look at this is what he sold at the gate. This is the type of viewers he got. This is like I like show me something else. Like, well, what else you got? Is that all you got? Because I could tell you I saw half empty arenas while he was making 3-4 million a fight. And why do I care? It's not. I've always said the following. I'm not mad at Haney. I'm not directing it at Haney. I'm directing it at the zone, at Matchroom. I'm directing it at the people that are paying the inflated purses. Is what I am directing it to. Because when there's a budget, right? If you overpay a fighter, you're taking money off of the table of other fighters.
Mhm.
That's just the truth. And then you create this scenario where other fighters look at that and then they want to make that type of money. And they start making unreasonable demands out of it, right? So I've been more than complimentary towards Haney in terms of what he did going to Australia to get that belt, despite the fact that he had to do a rematch with Camboza, which was unnecessary, but he did it anyway, right? He fought Lomachenko in his first defense after taking the belts from, or second defense technically, right? So I'm not understanding what you're saying, but the reality is Eddie Hearn himself said the dude's too expensive. That's why we have to put the fight with Progress on pay-per-view.
Yep.
Now the
And it's
question
bad for
is, what
us.
does that do for us? Now we have to fork out our money to subsidize what Devin Haney and Progress, quite frankly, want to make. Both of them. Like it's whatever to me. Am I mad about it? No, because I'm going to buy the event. I'm buying it, right? I'm supporting the event. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not hating the player. I am hating the game, actually.
Yeah.
Don't hate the player thing is exactly what I'm doing. I'm talking about the game.
And that's exactly what you said. I heard you say this a couple weeks ago that if you're in Devin Haney's position, you do the exact same thing. You
Yes,
take advantage of the game, um,
100%.
and you get overpaid. And you said this about Tiafimo when he took the Triller deal. It's like that is not what he's worth. And you're a Tiafimo fan, right? Is
Sure.
take the money, of course, take the money. But is this good to put
I've
Tiafimo
always
versus
said,
Cambosos on a
get
Triller pay per
your
view?
bag. I've always said that.
But at the same time, we've said a reset needs to happen. And this is the frustrating part is both of us are willing to call out our favorite fighters. Like Tiafimo for you. Regis Prograis for me. Regis Prograis is not a pay-per-view main event fighter, especially against Devin Haney. I'm sorry. Like it's just it's not in whatever he's making for this fight, 3-4 million. It's like, come on. And then Bud, it's these awkward conversations on my head. I already know. I already see it. I already see it developing. These awkward conversations I'm gonna have to have with people under my tent, fellow Bud Crawford fans. It's like, you think this dude is worth this, but he's actually worth this down here. I'm just telling you,
Look,
unless he's in there with a certain fighter.
What does he think's going to happen when he negotiates Canelo? When Bud's like, I think I should walk out. We should flip a coin on who walks out. Canelo's going to laugh at him. What the fuck? What are you talking about? Well, no, I did it with Spence. Me don't care, motherfucker. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you got to take 10 million, motherfucker. Like, like it is what it is.
And it's more so
Well,
the fan base than Bud, because if you're Bud, try to strike while the iron's hot. But these people out here telling me, and it's frustrating because these are dudes that I like, and generally I like their content, but they're out there trying to sell this event that
no, but
Canelo's
I
out
guess
here.
what I'm saying, Calix, is that we both know this, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Um, I think there's a guy, I think his name is Michael Brooks. He once said that analysis of something doesn't mean it's that we're condoning it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think people mix that up. By the way, like I saw you give an analysis of something on Twitter, right? And some dude retweeted you saying, "Oh, you're the problem with the guy stealing fights." Like,
Right.
they didn't even say that. Like, it's just weird shit, right? Like, and I feel like sometimes when we give an analysis about something, just like I did with Haney, people think I'm either condoning or condemning Haney. That's not what I'm doing, right?
No.
I just want to make sure people understand that at the end of the day, that's not what it is, bro. I want to talk about this. Like, Canelo's an A side to shout out Bud if I just hope you guys understand that.
By far.
He's gonna A side the fuck out of him, and I don't know if Bud's ready for that, bro. Like, Canelo's gonna get everything he wants in his favor, bro. All of it. Like, I'm just saying, that's probably not gonna be a big ring. Okay, like you guys think, oh, he'll get a big ring. It'll probably be an 18 by 18, 20 by 20 ring. It'll probably Canelo's gonna call all the shots. Like, I'm just putting that out there. This is not gonna be like the Haney situation where he got. I'm sorry, not Haney. I apologize. Spence, where he got some things. And I actually seen some Haney pro. Why do I keep saying Haney? What? Pro Spence channels, like actually saying this, like hey, a lot of the even though they're kind of dumb too, but they're like all the stuff that Bud made them do, like flip the coin and who walks out first, and you're not gonna get that with Canelo. Like, like it is what it is, but it's coming, bro. And I don't know, it's gonna start a lot of issues. I'm just putting that out there if they ever start negotiating that fight.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm just putting that out there, okay? But here's the thing, Calix. I think this needs to be said. Look, I used to work for, a satellite TV company, worked different positions in that company. And I understand, at least at the time, how that industry worked. And although it's changed dramatically since I left. And now I work for a really big corporate global company. And in this company, I cannot give details, but Calix knows, and people on close like Joe Beeb know. But um, it's what I could say is this: a lot of people, I mean, a lot, are pirating fights, bro.
Yeah.
Pirating sports, and
I,
and here's the thing. Oh, look,
yeah, go ahead.
this is a global problem.
Yeah, I want you to highlight that specifically. Is this is not just a sports problem either? It's
Oh,
everywhere.
it's happening with everything.
Yes.
It's happening with everything. It's happening with movies. Hollywood is taking hits. The movie theaters are getting hammered,
Yes.
especially after COVID, when once they started putting movies out because people couldn't go to a theater, and once that happened, and you program people,
Yes.
like you could program people to get used to something and start acting and behaving a certain way. You could actually do that, right?
Hmm.
I've been trying to program Calais to get away from the Saints and to a real football team. It hasn't worked. We're working on it,
It hasn't
but
worked yet.
no, but it's happening with everything, and it's a worldwide problem. And the only reason I'm saying that 45,000 streams were taken down for the UFC event this weekend.
Hmm.
Now, it's not 45,000 people because anywhere from 10 to 300 people per each stream watch that. And those are just the ones that got taken down. That's not boxing. By the way, Dana's been very aggressive with it,
Yeah.
right? It's a big problem. It's and it happens a lot on Sunday with football. It happens a lot with movie premieres and stuff like that. When Disney releases a movie, it happens a lot. It happens all over the world.
Hmm.
Zhang over there in China, it happened a lot. Pirating at an extremely high level on everything. And here's why I'm saying this, Alex. Stop giving guys like Espinosa a pass. Stop giving the power brokers, as Calix calls them, a pass. Stop giving the people that run the business of boxing a pass.
Hmm.
Yes, pirating is a problem, but every industry is dealing with it. Boxing's failures cannot be solely blamed on pirating and the fans, because that's just the truth. Pirating is happening everywhere in every industry. But a lot of those industries and sports are not suffering like boxing is. They're still thriving. Doesn't mean it's not a problem. Doesn't mean it shouldn't be addressed. Obviously, the UFC is going heavy against pirating, right? Because yes, they are losing money because of it, right? Every industry is. But when it comes to boxing, the reason we have empty arenas sometimes all over, it's not because there's pirating going on.
Hmm.
The reason certain pay-per-views fail and fail to get not even 100,000 buys is because the pay-per-view sucked and it was not on demand and people didn't care for it. It's not because it's because pirating's happening. If that was the case, because here's a trend that I want people to understand, Calix. Like the way people talk about it, you would think that the more a fight is pirated, the least successful it is on pay-per-view, right? Because everybody's stealing it. That's how
Not the
people talk
case.
about pirating.
Yep.
But the opposite's true. The fights that are pirated the most, they actually sell the most because it speaks to demand. If people are stealing it a lot, they're also buying it a lot,
Yep.
and vice versa. Okay. Unfortunately for boxing, kind of hurts to say this. Those fights that don't sell a lot, they don't get pirated a lot either.
Yes.
People don't even want to watch it for free. They got better shit to do on Saturday night. Like, I'm
It-
sorry, people just gotta hear it, bro.
they do. And
Like,
that's a
I'm just bringing
mistake
it up.
people make, D style, by the way, is they assume that all these people out here pirating the fight would have bought the fight. When in fact, they likely would have gone to somebody's house to watch it or just
Right.
sat it out or just waited till the next morning to watch it
And I
happen.
gave this analogy before, right? If you're a boxing fan and you're the boxing guy and a fight's highly in demand, right? And your neighbors or whoever wants to come to your house to watch it, you're more than likely going to buy it because it's kind of embarrassing to show everyone that you're pirating it. Okay? Like that when you make something the thing to do, people buy it. Okay? Like
Mm-hmm.
this hat. It was a thing to buy. So I bought it. I could have comped this. I could have somebody make this. It wouldn't have been as fresh or as good quality as Mr. Boxing Guru, but I could have done it, right? But at the end of the day, I just want to make sure people understand that, bro. And I'm there. I'm looking at the numbers. I know, and this is just one area here where I'm at. That's it.
Yeah.
Like so I just want to make sure people understand that. I saw how many people, like where I work, like how many people pirated the zone. It's not even anything to cough at. Like people weren't even watching it for free, bro. Like only hardcores watch that on the zone. That's it. Like that. That's just the truth, right? At least that's like, again. I'm not everywhere, obviously, but all I gotta say is this: when you give people good, people want to steal. Usually, the stuff they steal is the good shit. Okay. Yeah. Do people steal jewelry? They do, right? Burglars don't do. Have you ever seen a burglar? Like, has anybody ever like burglarized like a 7-Eleven just to steal a Snickers? Has that ever happened, Cal? Has anybody ever pulled out a gun and demanded like I don't know, like a Big Mac? Maybe a Big Mac right now. And then they walk out with a Big Mac. Has anybody ever done that?
I remember one time when I was a kid, Bobby Abear was the Saints quarterback, and somebody broke into the black and gold Saints shop,
Oh wow.
and they stole everything except the Bobby Abear
Wow.
jerseys.
I
They were
guess
like, you're gonna have that.
my point is this: when a fight card is crap,
Yes.
people they're not going out of the way to steal it, brother. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I just want to put that out there. Okay, of course. And one more point: when Calix and I provide an analysis about why people pirate fights, right, or why they look for other options, um, we're not saying we condone it. We're saying it's a matter of life. It's what happens, right? It does, right? There is a percentage of hardcore fans that pirate fights. There is, right? It is what it is. I don't know what the figure is, right?
I know why they
But
do it.
yeah,
But first of all, I want to hit on what you just said. I didn't expect you to bring this up, but it needs to be said. Uh, just because 800,000 people pirate a fight doesn't mean those 800,000 people were going to buy that fight. People need to understand that. And just because 400,000 people pirated Get Rich or Die Trying doesn't mean that 50 Cent was going to sell 400,000 more copies of it. It just didn't. He saw the value in it, and he's like, those 400,000 more people I can sell
and not to
vitamin
put
water
words in your
to.
mouth, that's just an analysis you're providing. That
Yes.
doesn't mean Calix is saying, "Oh, go steal fights."
No. But what I'm saying is they take that 800,000. They're like, oh, this would have sold 800,000 more. And Steven Espinoza will go out there and run with it and say, we can't do what the reason we can't give you this fight is because people are out there selling fights. This is happening everywhere, and the other sports are thriving. Look at the deals that college football is getting from networks right now. Look at the deals that the NFL is getting. Look at League Pass, NBA. They're thriving out there even with this going on. And why is that? People need to understand that is they have a sustainable market. A sustainable market. Even with the NBA. Like NBA, you could say since the Jordan era, the audience has been cut in half since the Jordan era in America. But otherwise, dude, there's a billion people, 900 million to a billion people following the NBA now in China. Heavy, 77%. I looked at the numbers, 77% of Filipinos watch and follow the NBA and buy their products. All right. So they're making up for it and then some over there. And they're doing it with a sustainable model. And that's where boxing is losing is they're looking at this stuff and they're using it as a crutch. And then they're brainwashing the fans to believe that you can't get what you want because of these people stealing this. No, that's not what it is. It's not what it is. Is they're letting you down. They're letting you down. And I know why the content creators that we see disappear, D-Style, and I know them because we work with some of them at Hailstorm Sports. We're the only two still following boxing hardcore
Okay.
or our boxing consumers is they do the same move. All the boxing content creators that don't do it anymore do the same move. They say, I can't deal with this anymore, putting out content, and I'm just going to disappear. So they stop putting out content, and the second thing they do every time is they get a fire stick, hacked fire stick. Every single time. Everyone that I talk to that has done this does the same move.
And I just want to make sure, like I'm speaking for myself, right? And I have a very principled position on, and I have a video I'm working on talking about this, but I don't do the fire set. It's just me. It's a personal choice. If I'm gonna boycott a paper event, then I just don't watch it, right? And I'll catch it later on YouTube or whatnot. That's me, right? Or I go somewhere to watch it, right? If a bar has it, a friend has it, whatever. But that's me. Um, I can only speak for myself, but I do want to say this, and I know this for a fact. For anybody out there selling, if you're going on social media and doing this in front of your television, right? And going live, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, whether it's YouTube, right? If you're screen sharing a pay-per-view event, right? Um, that's a crime, guys. Like you're literally you're actively committing a crime. Is what you're doing. All right. It's not just against policy at these social media platforms or websites. It's like you're literally committing a crime. Is what you're doing. Um, Not so much for the ones watching it because it happens to be on the platform, but for the ones showing it like that, and if you're getting super chats for it or gifts on the other platforms, or like you're literally making money off of showing something to people, which makes the crime even worse, right? You're not just soliciting something that you shouldn't be soliciting. Now you're making money off of it, right? That's a crime, guys. I'm just putting that out there, like that's not legal to do that, and and they can get your IP address. And they are starting to crack down. In the UK, there was some arrests done, right? With individuals selling, illegal streams. It could happen. Unless you live in some third world country or you're out there. I don't want to, like, it's gonna sound bad. I'm not throwing shots at Jamaica, but it's just known as a place like that. If you're out there in Jamaica or something like that, but if you're in the US of A, right, or any of its jurisdictions or a country in Europe, I would honestly suggest to cut it out because you're gonna get caught. And they have your IP addresses, okay? If you're selling it and you're distributing it, you could get in serious trouble, right? I'm just giving you guys some word from the wise here, okay? And more importantly, it's not worth it. It's my personal opinion, but just wanted to put that out there.
No, but I want to highlight this. And ironically, I just pulled up my Twitter and saw this. This is from Haymanites, biggest on, and I think that's BDA boxing on
Hmm.
YTBC. Shout out to them. But he shows and it's 25 different pay-per-views right here, just over the past couple of years that are not pay-per-view worthy fights. And I want people to understand that the reason that people do this move, particularly hardcore boxing fans, is they feel priced out. And they feel like you've turned our sport that we helped build as boxing fans into a country club sport. So we're going to fight back. We're going to do the best we can to still consume this product, to consume the product we love, and the only way we feel like we can. So I'll speak up for them. Uh, Thurman versus Barrios, Pacquiao versus Thurman, Pacquiao versus Broner, Spence versus Garcia, Davis versus Garcia, Ruiz versus Ortiz. Tank Davis versus Raleigh Romero, Wilder versus Hellenius, Tank Davis versus Hector Luis Garcia, Benavidez Andrade, Charlo doubleheader, Spence versus Porter, Spence versus Garcia, Ortiz versus Martin. You know, these are the type of pay per view, this level of pay per view that you're getting. And this is the amount of pay per views that you're getting. Wilder versus Ortiz. I mean,
Well,
when you
this
get
is,
that many pay per views
I get it.
and they're not pay per view quality fight, and to me, it's easy to say what a pay per view quality fight is. It's the fight that you're going to
Like
invite people over
obviously,
to.
I get what you're saying, and the point is well taken. And I'm in no way, and you know this, right? I'm in no way, shape, or form condoning the crap pay per view cards that we got in, right? And I'm not here to be preacher lecturing anybody. I was mainly talking about those that distribute the pay per views or boxing content on like social media and websites and illegally. That's was my main
Mm-hmm.
gripe there. But as far as people that look, I think it's the a lot of those pay per views were pay per view because there was no money in the budget for those
Mm-hmm.
fights, right? And it could be either they ran out of money in the budget or the purses were inflated. It's one or the other, right? It's a mixed bag with all that. And who has to subsidize it? Us. They expect us to subsidize it, right? So we're subsidizing. I also know this for a fact, Alex. Like when I worked at Dish, a paper was $75.99. The distributors kept half of it, right? The satellite cable company, we kept half, right? Even after they went digital when it's direct, they kept the price the same. It's not like, hey, well, since we're not giving half of it to DirecTV anymore, maybe we could lower the price a little bit. They didn't even do that, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like they kept the price the same or they increased it. Why? Because they feel like they already programmed us to be used to paying that amount of money, right? So they kept charging the same, even though we're going direct, right? We're buying directly through the Showtime app. You don't even lower the price, not even $10, bro. Nothing, right? But I still got to say this. Look, the way it's going to fail, look, it's going to fail regardless. No one's going to buy these events. Even you could, even if you blocked every way of streaming something, it wasn't. Let's say you made it impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Man, ain't nobody going to buy the half of those events, bro.
No.
Like, and I think that's the point we're trying to hammer home. Like, they're not worth it. When we say they're not worth it, like, I'm not saying, oh, that I'm justifying people stealing it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is people steal it because they don't feel it's worth buying. That's what I'm saying.
College football is the best TV product in the world, and it's affordable, and people still steal it.
Everybody steals everything, bro. Every Sunday ticket is stolen like a motherfucker.
Yeah, it
You know what I
is.
mean?
League pass.
Like everything's stolen. College
Yeah.
basketball, bro, free television or not
Mm-hmm.
free, but regular cable is stolen.
Yeah.
ESPN is stolen by millions of people, right? So this idea that oh, it's unique to boxing and boxing fans in particular are stealing everything. It's not true. I actually argue the opposite, believe it or not. I do believe that the only people crazy enough to buy a lot of those pay per views are just hardcore boxing fans.
Yeah.
That's it. Ain't no regular casual buying those fights, like at all, bro. I, I'll be honest, half of those fights, I could offer to pay them for my neighbor. They would watch it. Like I could buy it for them. And they'll be like, I don't know if I'll be home on Saturday though, but if I'm there, maybe. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yep. These are all good points. In closing, for me, put on more cards that we saw Saturday night.
Yep.
Just put on a good product, and people are going to show up. They're going to show up. And boxing fans have proven this for generations. If you put on fights where they belong, I mean, just forget the TV part of it right now. If you put on fights where they belong and price it correctly, people are going to show up. I witnessed this in New Orleans. New Orleans is not a fight town. 5,000 people show up to Prograde versus Zorilla. Nobody knows Zorilla, late replacement, and 5,000 people show up. If you put on fights where they belong, San Francisco or Oakland, wherever this fight is happening, the Bay Area for Haney, over 10,000 people are going to show up. They are. Shakur Stevenson, 11,000 people show up, 2 straight fights. Jared Big Baby Anderson, if you build this way, you put the fights where they belong. Oscar needs to own that LA market. Just own that market and build franchises out there. Just have these guys show up quarterly and put on good cards. I'm telling you, it's going to work.
We need to see more. We need to see people show up to these arenas, bro. What's the excuse for that? Because they conveniently don't have anything for that, right? They can't say, oh well, they're streaming it. Oh, no, why aren't people showing up in person to watch these events?
Yep, because you're putting Cambosos versus Maxie Hughes in Oklahoma. And I'll tell you this, it's beautiful to see the 3-generation fight fans show up. You ever see that? Like, you ever go to a fight in El Paso and you see the grandpa, the dad, and the grandson show up. And you see, okay, this right here is tradition being passed on. And the reason you can do that is you're putting a fight where it makes sense. You're putting hometown fighters, they are close to it. And you're pricing it respectfully. It's why I respect Canelo for going back to Mexico, for putting a fight in Dallas when he puts 73,000 people in that arena, and it does less than half of what his fights do in Vegas. I think it did $9 million live gate, and then he goes to Vegas, he'll do 22 to 27 million, something like that. But he's doing that for a reason. He's doing that because he knows I gotta give back to my fans. You know, I gotta put fights where we can price it correctly to where the grandkids can go. The grandkids can't go to a fight in Vegas. What the hell are they going to do in Vegas? And they got to pay $700 to get in? We need more fights like this, building guys correctly, putting them where they belong, and building new generations of boxing fans. I'm sure you saw that, dude. I'm sure there was that. I'm sure there was that at the Forum on Saturday night. I'm sure there were a lot of kids there with their dad or their granddad. And that's the beautiful part about boxing right there. And it's what we're losing.
Look, I just want to say this. I don't want boxing fans to lose the plot. Don't forget what we are, right? And what our interest is, right? Because Crawford and Tio could talk about, oh, we got to get on the table. But nobody's asking the fans what we want. Like, isn't that weird? Like, now, granted, they don't need to ask us. They know what we want. Mm-hmm. That's the truth. They know exactly which want great fights. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is, look, let's support the sport, right? But at the same time, the sport needs to support us. It's a two-way street, right? Like, and it starts with the one that's charging money is the one that's supposed to first give us what we want. It's not the other way. We don't need to earn our way to getting what we want. Like, that's not how it works, right? Like, oh, until you guys start buying fights, you're not going to get what you want. Like, that's not how it works,
right?
That's not a winning. Like, that's not how you do things, right? Restaurant Shetty, like, oh yeah, I know. Like I like Cheddar's over here, right? It's a restaurant out here, right? Mm-hmm. I like it. It's okay. Right? But if their food starts sucking, I'm not going. Right? They can't say, well, look, Eric, if you want to start making the food good again, you gotta keep coming and keep buying it to support us, and then we'll make you we'll make you a good steak after that. No, that's not how it works. You're the ones charging us. We have other options. I could go watch other shit. Right? I'm a battered wife. I don't want to leave. I love boxing. You know what I mean? I still remember the good times for boxing, Calix. You know what I mean? I remember like people don't understand boxing, and I see the other side of boxing. I know my family keeps telling me, "Why are you still with boxing?" And I'm like, "You don't get them. Boxing loves me too. It just doesn't show it all the time, but you know, look at Santillan versus Rocha. Like, I felt it right here. It reminded me why I love the sport, right?" Yeah. Now we're stuck. We're stuck right here, right? And it is what it is. But I will say this: I am excited to see what happens next. At the very least, there's like a there's like some fog, right? And we don't quite know what we're going to see next, right?
Yeah.
We can only see as far as the lights go, right? I have the high beams on. I can only see so far. But all I could see at the moment is, oh, we're going to work together. Oh, we're going to, like, that's all I see at the moment. What's
Yeah.
down there? I don't know. But yes, I co-sign what you said about Tim Zhu. Remove the name Tim Zhu. Just think about what he's doing. He's staying active. He's trying to fight the best. He's calling out the best. He's ambitious, right? Like, he's easy to make fights with. The whole nine. That hypothetical fighter, me and Calix have been talking about that type of fighter for years. It's just that now we have an actual name that comes with it. His name's Tim Zhu, right? Another one is, I don't care what anybody says, it's Canelo Alvarez, right?
Yeah.
A fighter that has been consistently doing everything, fighting everybody, right? It still gets criticized up the moon. Tank Davis fans criticize him. It's insane, right? So, like, and maybe you can't make everybody happy, right? Look, Calix, can Tim Zhu beat Terence Crawford? I don't know. I don't think so. But I value the fact that he's saying, I'll fight Crawford.
Yeah.
I'll do it. Can he beat Jermell Charlo? You and I believe so, but we also acknowledge that Jermell
what he's not saying? He's not saying you clean up your side of the street and I'll clean up.
Yeah, what he's saying, I want to make those fights. His team is saying, we're going to go wherever it works out best for us. We're coming back February, March. That is what I want from all fighters. I don't want to hear like, oh, that fight's not big yet. You don't know the business. Go back and buy fights, and then maybe you could talk. Like what are we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Like, I'm just saying, man. And whoever Heyman lands with, Ring IQ said this, and I agree. I hope it's whoever's in charge of, whether it's Amazon, whoever. I hope someone is there to check them, right? Like, no, we're not going to do that. No, we're going to do that either. Like he doesn't need a press secretary, all right? That's not what he needs. Checks and balances, ladies and gentlemen. And that's all I got.
All right, we're going to be on your channel Wednesday, right? HCP show?
Wednesday, same time. Same time Wednesday.
There we go. God bless y'all. Y'all have a great Monday.
Real quick, check me out on In the Ring with Christine tonight. We're going to be covering a lot of the Pan Am games, a lot of our American fighters out there. So shout out to them. That's all I got. Peace.
You know what time, by the way?
I don't actually, because it depends when she's out, but it's somewhere around 9 Eastern, more or less.
And support those fighters, by the way. Support those fighters coming up. Always support those fighters. All right, we out. Peace. God bless.
Peace.